Hi, all you VIP Kid teachers out there. I thought I would do for lack of a better term, a proof of life video. I taught through the night last night. I started at 8 p.m. and my last class finished at 2:30 this morning. So, needless to say, I had a long night, but I did, and I know a lot of teachers do this. A lot of them come in on the weekends. That's their place and time to really hit the bookings, and they work through the night. But for me, it probably takes a little bit more for a 50-year-old than a 20 something year old to do. So it was a little harder for me, but I did power through. A couple things that helped. I'm standing. So I rigged a system in my office here, and I usually use a background. I use Minicam as my background, and I had it all set up. I had it all rigged so that I could stand, and this gave me so much more flexibility. I just really enjoyed being able to move a little bit. I really enjoyed using the Minicam standing. Excuse me. Um, I used my voice so much last night that I'm a little bit hoarse, actually, um, which just means I'll be quiet for the day. My husband will love it because I have to start teaching again tonight, and I'll be doing that same rotation tonight. So 8 p.m. tonight, down around until 2:30 tomorrow morning. So couple things I did. First, like I said, I'm standing. I got this movement going, which was really nice. And I enjoyed the fact that I could use my Manycan screen. I had more room on my screen, and I felt like a weather reporter, because I could show them the things on my screen, or I backed out of the screen and I would show them their incentives that were behind me, and it was fun. We had a good time with that. I also have a bar stool that I could pull up, and it worked perfectly for me to quickly just tilt my camera slightly down, not much. I didn't have to move my setup, just a small I have a clip on camera, so it was just a small movement down, and I could pull the big bar stool up, and I was in perfect view, and I could then sit for a little bit. So I found that doing 14 classes in a row, I wanted to have the flexibility of the stand sit. Um, if any of you have suggestions for stand-up desks, I'm thinking about getting one of those. My setup right now is pretty rustic. It's just a Rubbermaid tub that's sitting on top of my desk, and then my computer is on top of that, and my laptop is just on a stack of books. So it's so high tech around here. But that's how I set it up. And then one thing I did that helped me, I put a coffee maker in here, and my husband was so good to me last night. He set up my coffee maker and got it ready, and then I did just some things to make myself comfortable. I had a big thing of water running, and he would pop in whenever he hears me singing the goodbye song. Often I can see him standing in my doorway waiting to see if I need something, and he comes in and he'll fill me up and help me get going there. I also partway through, I had a snack. Now I have the option that I have. My husband was just home, and that doesn't necessarily mean he's always going to be there. But he brought me in a snack at one point, so I could have it sitting here. And I happened to read someone else on the Fresh Desk said one of the things that a go-to snack that they use is apple with some peanut butter, and it's that little burst of sugar, and then that peanut butter gives you some good protein. And it was a great idea because I really felt myself just pick up after I did that. And so that was really helpful, honestly, to just have that quick snack. And I could do that pretty quickly and easily because he had been good enough to slice it all up and put it in a little bowl right here at my desk. And so as soon as I can have a munch while I'm doing feedback. So I would say that one thing that really helped is standing up. The other thing is I could just quickly grab my coffee because my cord is so long that I could grab my coffee and drink it a little bit while I was feedbacking and then, move on to the next student. And um, one of the cons of doing this was I found my voice going because I'm trying to keep high energy and I do get into this a little bit, but the big A and the small a. So I do get into it a little bit and then I find that I'm using my voice and then by the end of the evening it was running on empty. So need to work on pacing myself with that. So I had a fun time last night with one family. It was interesting. So I got on and it said the boy's name was Mike. And so I was waiting for Mike. And when it opened up the camera, I was like, "Are you Mike?" And it was an older boy. And he kind of laughed. And then he did this thing where he like put his mouth all the way up to the camera. So all I could see was his tonsils, like he literally put his mouth on the tip of the camera, and that's all I could see. And so that was terrible. And then he kept doing his eye, and his eye was all the way on the camera. So all I was seeing was this eye. So he was just having the time of his life with that camera. And so I was like, "Hello, hello." And then finally, I stood there and it took me 6 minutes to get him to stop. And then all of a sudden, I heard, and it was the grandfather. The grandfather came in and the boy had knocked the computer down and the webcam down in all of his antics. And so the grandfather had to come in and set it all back up. So, all I'm getting is, the whole time. And so I wait, and by this point, we've burned 10 minutes of the class just with antics from the boy. And then the camera came and I said, "Can you sit down in your seat?" I said, "Please sit down in your seat and let's talk." And all of a sudden there were two boys there. And I was like, who is Mike? And the boy said, "I am Mike and I am James." And they could barely talk English. They had very little understanding of it and they were older. And then the grandfather said to me in Chinese, he said, they are twins. And so come to find out, I had been dealing with two twin boys that were playing around with the camera and the computer because like it would be eye and then mouth and then hand and then all of a sudden the computer's over and all of this stuff. So they come in and they semi sit down and then grandpa's gone and I hear him leave. And then it was 10 minutes more of sheer just trying to figure out how to teach two boys that were just having fun together. And they were just being silly together and they were even, it was like I wasn't there except for the fact that they enjoyed my camera. So eventually I was like, "You need to sit down and you need to listen to, teachers' ears." And I just broke into telling them in Chinese, which, obviously we don't do that on a normal basis in the classroom because this is an immersion style learning. And that's how I learned Chinese. I went into my very first Chinese class and my teacher just started talking Chinese. "Open up your book, turn to page 2. And I just remember going, so then she was like, "Open the book, page 2, That's how I learned Chinese. And it was really hard. But with these guys, obviously when I was doing it, I wasn't running around the room and screaming and putting my mouth on the webcam, So there was a difference. And I felt like it was my only way to get control. And so I finally just said, "Hey," and I told them, "Sit down and you need to listen to what your teacher is telling you." And it was like, kabam. They sat down in that seat. Now, I'm not saying they were great all the time for the rest of the 5 minutes left, but they did actually respond. So it was interesting to me how that worked. I did hear the grandfather say, "Your teacher is talking to you," when I finally broke out in Chinese. And it helped me to realize the grandfather didn't understand English. So if I was talking to the boys, he had no idea. But when I got firm with them in Chinese, there they went, So, I don't know if that's an acceptable company policy to do that or not, but I will say that I got 5 semi-productive minutes out of those boys when I finally did that. Now, as soon as I got their attention, then it was, English only. And it was, really focusing in on trying to get them to speak and respond to me. just it was hard because they screamed it all at me. They just kept putting their mouths up to the webcam and screaming their answers. But so that kept me going for the night too, because it kind of woke me up a little bit. And sometimes that makes my blood get boiling a little, and that helps you to keep going too. But so this is my proof of life video. I made it, and I'm up now, and I'll probably end up taking a little snooze this afternoon because tonight starts it again. But I have a setup now. I have my coffee maker. I even lit a candle. I wanted to make it comfortable in here because I spent a lot of time in here last night. And so let's see how it goes. Suggestions on a standing box, please, in my comments. Let me know if you even have a link or one that you've bought or that you know of. I'm open to suggestions on that because that's something I really want to do when I'm teaching the back-to-backs. So, and I love just the standing option here because I have so much more flexibility, and I can really use my hands more and do a lot more motions, and that was fun, and I very much enjoyed that. So that's my little proof of life video. I made it through, and back-to-backs, yes, you can do it. It's hard, but you can do it. Be prepared to have some canned phrases that you're using with your feedbacks. I did some copying and pasting and then just switched around some things based on the student's actual need, but just some key phrasings that we always use, with continued practice, Susie is going to do well as she works with her teacher, those kinds of things that you can use to encourage them that your student is doing well and can do well. So just some toss it out thoughts from a really tired woman this morning, but that's my proof of life video. I did it back to backs. Yay.